IO. This will be a bit of a new structure if you couldn't have told by the previous one. This is going to be like rough thoughts so far kind of video. First thing I wanted to cover was the avatar creator. It's actually like really nice to go through the stuff. I probably missed a few things the first go around when creating this avatar, which I believe I made live. It might have been before then though. But this is the avatar that I'm using for High SMP Season 1, which currently all the content related to it is over on the Stoat Lord, because Chaos has been the main one playing it. The hair here was the closest I could find to the IRL hairstyle that I have. Though I wish that there was a version with the hairstyle like cascading down this way versus this way. And then just like straight heading backward to the back of the head over to that side as well. But that's less of a priority. And also I love the amount of options that they give for customizing. Like you can even customize the type of pixels in the eyes. It's a lot of detail. I was also thinking of doing some earrings, but I couldn't really find any that fit the character's vibe. Also wish there was like a bit of dwarvish stuff that I could toss in. But alas, there doesn't seem to be much on that front. And I do also have a ton of outfit choices as well. In fact, I think it's ever growing in terms of how many there are, which is honestly kind of good. And Thomas Frick has been one of the main ones behind this, but I believe a modder called Violet is also going to be involved with this soon. There's also a randomized avatar, I believe, right here, and then resetting the clothing and stuff. You can also, a thing that I found out is that each menu can be selected from the bar at the top. There's also a ton of options as well that you can toggle. For my setup, which is below the specs ideal, I have just 192 chunks and then 240 FPS, and it runs fine. Like, it doesn't even heat up that bad, which is shocking. I was scared when it said that 8 gigabytes would be required to run the game, but that is not true. Oh yeah, also, unlike most games, under configuration, there is a full-on mod list that you can search through and stuff. You just need to make sure the mods stay up to date, which is going to be a bit tricky during early access. But for the most part, it works. Only thing I wish there was on the selection is a select all type of button. which would just enable all mods so that you don't have to manually click each and every one until you have them all on, which takes a while if you can't tell. I guess while I do this, I'll mention that the if you toggle on the NPCs button, that will break things. From what I've seen, I'm not sure if it's a thing with mods or not, but when toggled on, it still generates and loads the world. However, while loading, the server shuts down internally. It does not disconnect the client. And thus forth, you're just stuck on the loading screen. Oh yeah, also with creative, you can select from the creative hub a generated world or a flat world. I think for this go around, I'm gonna go with a generated world. And then you can also choose whether the time pauses. I'd assume probably like the global time played, but I'm not sure. I'm gonna apply settings, and then I'm gonna create the world. Since everything's server side, each world is associated with a set of server files. These contain mods and universes. The mods folder contains your jar files and your asset packs, and probably some more stuff in the future if it was to guess. And then universes contains your worlds. And both of these are found within each save. Each save is what's labeled as a world in the system. I dug into that while working on setting up Thunderstore for this game. Oh yeah, there's also a special type of mod that's kind of similar to Beponex's Patcher, which are called early plugins. Usually on the server end, you would have to manually go through and make sure to toggle on you're okay with this running, because it does mess with performance because it works like a patch. Thus forth, they can't ensure performance is the same. But there's a way to toggle that off from what I've read from the CurseWords docs provided by Dark Hacks, so that early plugins will always load and you don't have to confirm it. And you do have to manually create that folder if you do plan on doing early plugins. Though from what I've seen, most things can be handled in the server. Except some stuff with UIs. But those should hopefully be getting fixed soon. One of the main things I'm praying for is a way to display an image within a UI, so that I can make a proper like TCG kind of mod, similar to a old mod for Minecraft. Excuse me. Which is for 1.7.10, 1.12.2, and 1.16.5. It is ported by Power of the Grid. I forgot who originally made it. And it has been contributed to by DigiRay and AstroTips. It has a nice content pack system, which lets you add in your own card packs and stuff. Which I believe there's a tutorial or two on this channel. I haven't finished it because, of course, like all things, ADHD happens. I'm planning on making a proper C# bridge to the Hytale server, and that might take a bit considering how quick development goes, and also because I have to learn how to do that in the first place. And then the other thing I was planning was, like I mentioned earlier, my trading cards system. Also, yeah, setup times do take a bit. I don't know if there's a way they can speed that up at all. Yeah, there is some waiting involved with servers. They also have a silly logging system. Like, instead of it being info error warning, it goes from fine to mostly fine to somewhat fine to, I think it's probably like warning, and then I think error, something like that. There's probably an info one in there too. Basically, has like a severity scale of how bad the errors are, which is something I don't see a lot of games doing. I just wish there was a way to like have some sort of verbose logging that you can watch while it loads or something. Maybe like a pop out that can show up similar to a BepNext window, which is just a console containing all the logging until the thing's done so that you can see more of what's happening inside. It's usually labeled as something like verbose logging in a sense. It doesn't have to be something like that per se, just a way to see what's happening internally would be great. Which they somewhat do. They just don't show all the details. Oh yeah, also there's an arachnophobia setting that turns spiders into crabs from what I've seen. And I think they added another phobia setting as well. I haven't tested either of them, but I know they exist. Oh yeah, also if you haven't yet, use code chaos here. Check out. This will give me, if I recall it right, around like 5% of the sale. Nothing more that you have to pay from what I'm aware. It just supports the creator. And if you've been keeping tracks of my Ko-Fi, I'm working on updating that. It'll contain some Hytale and Minecraft stuff when I feel confident on that. Right now, it currently has code reviews and some inscription related stuff. I do need to still finish the update for it. But yeah, that's like Ko-Fi status. You can find that at, I believe it's heaps co-fi slash then creator 3483. And also, if you want any development updates, you can head over to my LinkedIn under Chaos Vessel. Oh yeah, I also run Hytale, a Discord server. The Hytale server associated is ran by another fellow that co-owns the server, essentially. From what I've seen, it's really cool. Just for some reason, people come on there in grief. I don't know why or who or how, but they do. I've heard a few very, very strange things about it. But from what I can tell, it's getting better, at least. Alright, we're almost done with loading. It's probably gonna take a little bit. There we go. I'm happy I didn't enable the niche auto server thing, because that might cause a bit of lag. As I keep forgetting that's for the server end, not for the client end. Anyways, this is the vibe of the Hytale spawns. they have an exit door into the environment so that you can have like a bit of excitement before looking outside and seeing the world. And so you can introduce yourself to some mechanics and stuff too. Now, there's a few things that have been on my mind. Let me grab a branch so that I can show one of these if it hasn't been patched yet. So, for example, if I were to do this and this, as you can see, it does not connect, which is really annoying when you want to make some complex kind of branches. Because ideally, these would connect in a way that looks aesthetically pleasing, but they don't. So you're stuck currently with either horizontally or vertically doing these, or just hiding the bits that don't connect. But idealistically, these would connect. And then there's also been some stuff with the slabs as well. Let me go grab an oak slab and then find a stone one. So here's slab issue number one. These don't have the other end of the slab that they should have. Similar for when they do vertical. And yes, Hytale actually does vertical slabs. Which is also really annoying if you want to have, like, let's say, something adjacent to this with the roof, like, middle of this block. If I did that. Yeah. So, for example, if I wanted to do that kind of thing, I could not. I'm stuck with it having a gap. Meanwhile, for the stone slabs, if I can get them to move out properly, like I want them to, these actually do the job. Oh yeah, by the way, there is also a R button to rotate, just in case you were curious, which accounts for all states. Another thing I've spotted with these specifically is that if you did that, when you right click, it places two when there's already a pre-existing slab, like so. Unless you are above it to where another block would not place, like so. Then also, I want to show a bug real quick that I found. So if I was to head, like, let's say down this way, and then if I dug myself a little hole, and then lined it up roughly like so, this can be done in a one corridor too. And then if I plant myself like directly at the edge and then place one more. Oh, maybe they fixed it. Okay. Well, that used to go out of bounds. I'm not sure if there's still a way to, like, recreate that. Let's see. Nope. I did it. you just can't go out of bounds anymore. But it used to be a case where you can go out of bounds. It had inverted controls, and you could go like anywhere and then just exit out. I'm not sure which dev fixed that, so if you're watching this, I guess, feel free to leave a comment or something. I know I've mentioned it on my LinkedIn for sure. I just don't know if that was where it was resolved. Oh, also seems like when you do this, you get like soft locked into the thing now. There. Another thing that's like less important is that sometimes you can see like a black edge in FPS 120. Anyways, moving on from that. Creative tools. So for one, there is an asset editor you can launch. You do need to opt self. This will opt the current player so that they can actually do that. There's also M for a map. And then when you launch the asset editor, I might need to add a thing in OBS to show it. But it will launch an executable in which handles Hytale asset editing essentially. I'm just waiting for it to actually go about launching. There's also a node editor as well, which you can launch. And then lastly, there's a model editor which will link over to Blockbench. And then from there you can essentially edit models through an executable. And then there's also a prefab editor. I'm not sure how that one works just yet. It seems like this one might be in game, maybe? Yeah. Configs, router, and stuff. I haven't played with all of this, so I have less specialty on it. But it's available. You can go through all of the prefabs available. For example, you can go and frozen shale, and then if I was to right click, there it goes. I was wondering what was happening. But if you hold right click, you can essentially like paint it across the screen. Like so. It may take a second to do it, depending on how large the prefab is. It seems like some of them come with enemies and fun. And then it will also give you a list of keybinds associated with it for you to do things with. And then you can also hit B to go here. You can spawn entities, particles. You can change the player model. You can tint the chunk. Let's go with that. Then go with that. And that will change the color of the chunk that you're within to that color. There's also a way of importing objects and images, which I do want to test. I'm not entirely sure how to go about it. I think I might need to go find the path file myself. So give me a moment. Deidre coming on. Nothing textures. What is that? Models. Mesh? Yeah, mesh is what it is. This will be the object. I'm not sure if that's how that works, but it seems to be something like that. Go with a height of around 50 blocks. Go with that. Okay, that seems to work. I'm pretty sure that is the file name. Let's see. Oh, wait. Is that automatically .2 lower? That was for shish. Bro. I love File Explorer sometimes. Let me give that a restart. meantime, I think I know why it went wrong. Because that is not meant to be lowercase. That's probably a bug, if I was to guess, because that should not be a lowercase cat. Unless I can just... Oh, I can just do that. Okay. Let's try this. This, and then... I did that. And then import it to clipboard. Yeah, it seems like that should do the job. I'm gonna experiment with that a little more. Oh, I just had that edge. Okay. But yeah, that's the object importing. I think you could probably also do something with this. Yeah. What I figured. Basically, you can like paint it across and stuff. Then I also saw that there is an import image. Yeah, it doesn't seem like browsing works. Let's see. If I take this and then go with that. Import clipboard. And what I want to do is directly right there. Out. And then that imports the image. No, I was honestly expecting it to like line up that way, but that also works. I think we can make that cooler. I did this, and then if I did that, and then we're gonna go for like the top of that tree. not have a height limit? What? Oh, no, you do, don't you? Yeah, okay. Let's see if we can find a, like, ladder spot for this. Go for it there. No, it still puts it way, way up. So maybe not by 12. Like 256 then. If there is a way to, like, increase that height limit, that would be nice. Because I'd love to just have quotes that go way, way up. Okay, that's... yeah. True. I don't think that's meant to do that. And then it does its best to color correct to the right palette as well. That might be a Nitrado thing, now that I think of it. But yeah, it does its best to color correct to a block associated, and then it pastes it into the world. Yeah, I seriously think that's a Nitrado thing. Because it usually does not do that. I'm not sure why it's doing that, but... the realm should be here. Okay. Yeah, it's Nitrado. I was wondering. Did it have, like, way of... no, it does not have a way of emphasizing that. Damn. But that would have been cool if it did. And then also under the... you have the builder's tools, which takes you to the inventory that you can also access from tab. But it also has some creative mode quick settings, such as a no clip, flight controls, inertia of flight, basically how quick. I guess that might be more so. You can allow NPC detections, responses to hit. You can allow for placement of air. You can increase how far you can place things. The minimum delay in which to place things, which I think should probably be a bit higher, personally. How opaque the brushes are, I'm not sure what that relates to. The sounds of brushes, selection opacity. You can also hide a bunch of stuff too. And you can enable bold bright. And then you can display a legend of associated controls and stuff too. Then you have access to pretty much everything from this menu. And there's also subs menus in here as well. These are the brushes that they have in here currently. Basically, that's meant to essentially like smooth out the land stuff, and that'll like extrude it. I think you can probably change what that is. You can also make it like do tentacles and stuff too. And then ruins. Which I think just places ruin as structures and stuff. Not quite sure. There's also some machinima stuff. I'm not sure how these work exactly, but I know it's like machinima type of stuff. And then there's also command list. I'm not sure if this was here the last time I checked, but it is here. Oh, there's Git stuff. That's nice. Also with the map, you can place markers with right click. You can select the location or teleport there. You can also zoom in and out. You can see the player list. Well, more so toggle it on and off. And then tab will give you your inventory, which is basically the builder's tools menu. And paintbrush settings and stuff too. Like so. Well, that doesn't seem to be working. It might also just be like chunk stuff, not doing chunk stuff. But yeah, right now that's pretty much all the stuff I really know. I think next video I do Hytale is probably gonna be me restarting the mod review thing. Or diving into world gem stuff or tutorials, something like that. Probably not like playing on high SMP because that's kind of like Chaos's domain. But if there's ever a need to like make a recap video or something, that'll probably be on here. I'm usually pretty good at those. might have just lagged it too much, maybe. Now that I see that absolutely nothing is changing. Gosh, probably where it is. I'm not sure what I would have done to make that not show changes. Weird. Oh well. Oh yeah, before I end it, I think game capture should probably work. Touch specific window. Asset editor. So as a reference, this is the asset editor, which is how you make asset pack based mods. And also resource packs essentially. And from what I saw, it's something like this. I'm surprised they have an email option. Then you'd hit save. And then now you're within your own pack, and then you add your assets and stuff. You give the asset an ID, you get the asset that you're copying, and then you'd put in like properties for it and stuff. Not entirely sure how it works right now, but I'm going to dig into it at some point. And then the other editor is the node editor, which I'm not sure if that's gonna work. Let's see if I. No, it's one of these settings. Usually it is. I think with the node editor, I'm gonna have to use a window capture. So let me do this. Node editor. Nope. Okay. Let's try that and then try that. Okay, it's got to be set to 1903 window capture, otherwise known as like Windows 10. Oop, wrong application. So this is the node editor system, which I am going to more than likely be taking a deep dive into. It's mainly for biomes right now, but it does seem to offer some other stuff. One of the main ones being biomes. You have position nodes. You have mirror nodes. You can set the selected node as the root. You can go to the root. You can toggle whether it's compact or not. You can find a node within the system. You also have hotkeys. You can also open and save files. You can give it a comment. You can also shrink it that way too. You can name it. I'm not quite sure how you would like attach. Oh, I guess I found out. You can attach it to a terrain, which then you can attach it to a density system. Let's go with that. And then you can export that as something. You can skip it. Then you can give it an input. Let's go with that. Then you can choose whether that's skipped or not, and so on. And then what to export that as. Material provider, which will be a seed system. You give it a weight, and then you can give it a material. Export it as something. You can set a component with a layer and such. I'm not quite sure how the node system works, but that's the rough basics of how to do a node system, I guess. I'll dig more into it. But yeah, I'll wrap it up there. I've rambled way too much in this with stuff that I don't really know about. But yeah, I'll catch you next time I'm recording or streaming or something. Peace. Not even sure what to do for a thumbnail. We'll see.